Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'd. Ahabati fillah. I thought today it would be beneficial to talk about being positive. And of course, the opposite of being positive is being negative. And the type of positive I want to emphasize as far as the nusus, as far as the text from Kitabillah wa Sunnah to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and some athar of the Salaf al-Salih, Ridwanullahi alayhim, I thought that it would be useful to talk about how to avoid ghiba and namima, backbiting and slander, when you hear doubtful things about the believers. And this is something very important for all of us. Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh wa iyyakum. This is for all of us as believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we need to be positive in general, in that we have to realize that a positive mental state only yufidak fil iman. It will help you and benefit you with regards to your faith. And when you have a positive outlook on life in general, that shows that you have a positive outlook with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kadhalik. Meaning, likewise, you will have this tendency to be positive about your Lord, positive about your du'as being accepted, positive about, just waking up and seeing a new day, counting the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we cannot count. Also, not having despair with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala says, La taqnutu fi rahmatillah. Do not despair at the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can never underestimate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And if we begin to doubt Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and have doubt in that He's going to answer your du'as, or that He's answering your prayers and going to assist you in your difficulties and your trials and tribulations, then this shows a weakness in iman, of course, in your faith, and it can actually destroy your iman in your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and thus eventually cause you to leave Islam. Because many people, they give up on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is where they end up leaving Islam. They no longer believe in Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. They begin to doubt. First, it begins with their supplications, that they say, hey, Allah didn't answer my supplication. I've been supplicating for this for more than a year, for 6 months, for 2 weeks, for 2 hours, and it hasn't happened. And so then the people begin to give up on their Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows our status. He knows that we're weak and frail and that we're inclined to give up. And so He doesn't put a burden greater than a soul has strength to bear. So remember that, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions all throughout the Quran, that He does not put a burden greater than a soul has to bear. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, سَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ مَخْرَجًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make for you a makhraja, a way out, a means out when we have difficulties, trials, and tribulations. So this is in general, that we have to have a positive attitude in life. And this, you see that the people who are positive, they have a tendency to be successful in this life. And if they're positive alongside with iman, then they have the propensity to be successful in this life as well as the hereafter. And that's why we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah mentions in the Quran, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِينَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And that is a dua of the believers, of the mu'mineen, that they supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they ask Him for goodness in this life as well as the hereafter. Because the goodness in this life, يُعِينَكَ عَلَى طَاعَةِ اللَّهِ وَهَذَا وَسِيلَةٌ إِلَى آخِرَةٍ. So the goodness in this life, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favors you with the goodness in this life, and this is something I heard from Sheikh Abdul Razak Al-Badr, Hafidhullah ta'ala, it was very beneficial because I thought of this dua in a different way, and then I heard from the Sheikh, he mentioned that he in his explanation of Qawaid al-Arba, he was mentioning that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you good in this life, then that good in this life is a means, not just a means to the hereafter, the success, but he said the good in this life would be talab al-ilm. So he brought it back to Islamic knowledge. He brought it back to the basira and the fiqh of ilm al-nafiya, that this knowledge is going to be that means to make you successful in the hereafter. Fi dunya wal akhirah. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And part of the hasana that Allah gives you in this life is ilm nafiya, which helps you to practice your religion so you have the success in the hereafter. So that is a success in this life and the hereafter. Because if you get ilm nafiya and you practice it and you preach it and you're patient upon it, then bi'idhnillah ta'ala, you will have the success in the hereafter. And that was a part of all in part and parcel due to that ilm nafiya. I hope that made sense. I hope that made sense. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala. So it is a very important means. And we've already mentioned countless times the importance of beneficial knowledge and the ahadith and the ayat. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yufaddal ba'duna ala ba'd. He gives some of us superiority over others, and that comes with knowledge. And verily, the people who fear Allah the most, al-ulama. Akhsha ibadi, al-ulama. The most God-fearing people from the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the ulama. And the Prophet ﷺ said, al-ulama warathul anbiya, that the scholars are the inheritors of the prophets, because they didn't get wealth, they didn't inherit this, but they inherited fiqh fi deen, knowledge of the religion, so they can practice, preach, and teach, and help, and assist, and they fear Allah more than the others. So that is the fadl of ilm. Ilm is a means to paradise. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man salaka tariqan yaltalmisuhu bihi ilman, sahalallahu lahu bihi tariqan al-jannah." Whoever traverses the path of knowledge, Allah will make easy for him the path to paradise. So that beneficial knowledge, there's so many nusus, so many divine texts, kitab wa sunnah, wa athar of the Salaf, many statements of the Salaf, that show us the importance of beneficial knowledge, and that is a means to paradise, and that the Salaf used it like that they didn't want fame, they didn't want to be heard of, they weren't looking for likes, but they were looking for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bas, the pleasure of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And that's why we have to purify our intention constantly to remember what it's all about. It's not about being famous. It's not about this. It's about trying to get to Jannah. And this ilm nafi'ah is that wasila. It's a means to getting us to paradise. And so it's very important to have a positive mental state, to the best of your ability, of course, if you're not impaired, that you try to be positive about this life and try to use this life as a means to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and draw nearer to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So ahabati fillah, the actual topic that I wanted to talk about was more husn al-dhan, and that is having a, I guess we could say, a positive outlook, and more specifically, a positive outlook when we hear something about our Muslim brothers and sisters. so that way we don't spread and fall into ghiba and namima. Okay. And so, as we've said many times, so if you can find on my channel, if you want to ask questions that we can't deal with here, go to greenkhalid@gmail.com, greenkhalid@gmail.com. And I will try to, right now I don't have the access to do editing and to make it on my video and stuff. Right now I'm just using a phone. That's it. Shooting with a phone. My internet is not the best. I have to keep the door open, and that's why I have this cold sweater on, and the birds are chirping, which is beautiful, but it is very cold here right now as we had several storms. Right. So the topic is having a positive outlook with regards to when you hear khabar from someone, when you hear negative about someone. And so this we can very much apply with a lot of the fitna that we experience between people, between the du'at, between your Muslim brothers and sisters. Sometimes people confide in me. I find out something about a particular brother that is married to a sister, didn't even know anything, haven't heard from the brother in years. And all of a sudden a sister tells me she has this and this and this and this and this issues with this brother, and he did this and he oppressed her in this way. And of course you have to listen to both sides, of course, if you're adjudicating in anything, and it's better to have parties, but sometimes people just want advice on what to do in those situations. So the point is that we want to have as positive of an outlook about someone as possible when we hear the news, when we hear khabar or something about someone. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Fi Kitab al-Kareem, and this is showing what we don't want to have. We don't want to be doubtful in our iman, and we don't want to be doubtful, and negative about people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this is about being firm in your religion. He says, فَإِن كُنْتَ فِي شَكٍّ مِمَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ. And so this was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to make sure that he was firm, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course he was firm, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but this just was able to give more confidence and more strength, and it shows us that we should not be doubtful and fickle in things. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so if you are in doubt with regards to what we revealed to you, And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions in Surah Al-Baqarah about not having doubt and not, and being firm. فَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِثْلِهِ وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Baqarah, he says, when kuntum fi rayb, if you were in doubt about what we revealed to our servant, فَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِثْلِهِ, then bring a surah like it. Because you can't. Bring a surah like it. So if you're in doubt about the Quran, then bring something close to it. Bring something that can even begin to give the kind of ilm and basira and the comfort in the heart. You can't. And وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Bring your shuhada, bring your witnesses if you are truthful. So this is just in general to show us the importance of affirming what is brought to us. When we hear something, and not being negative and not being doubtful, of course, in the message of Islam, of course. And so this husn dhan we're talking about, it has to do with the i'tiqad in the qalb. It has to do with something like a belief in the heart. Because when you hear something, if someone comes to you now and they say, well, brother Khalid, he is doing this, or he is like this, you are going to have that. Even if you don't believe it right off the get-go, it's going to be something that kind of sticks in your mind. No, it's the opposite. It's Green Khalid, not Khalid Green. Green Khalid at Gmail. So that negativity is going to stick in your mind. When people speak and they bombard about someone, negative things, if you hear a lot of negative about someone or about a particular group or what have you, that's going to stick in your mind, even if you don't believe it right off the get-go. And so it's very important, and especially, and we're going to talk about that, as the scholars mentioned, about those people of knowledge and fadl. When you're talking about scholars, how easy it is for the people who don't know anything about Islam. The most ajhal takfiris, ajhal people who involve themselves in tabdi', and then they're speaking about major scholars like nothing. I remember when I came back from Yemen, I came back and some of the brothers I grew up in the deen with, and the first thing they asked me, they said, I came back from Yemen, had studied a little bit, and they were like, did you bring any Anashid? Did you bring any Anashid? And I said, no, I don't listen to that, but mashallah, I got some tapes of Sheikh Mukbil and stuff like this. And they were like, the first thing one of the brothers said, Bin Baz is a kafir, Albani is this, and Imam Uthaymeen is a munafiq. This is the first thing one of the brothers said to me. He didn't even have the ability. He didn't know any Arabic, still doesn't know Arabic probably, could not even go to one of their books, but he had listened to the sickness of sick takfiris like Faisal and Abu Hamza Misri and Abu Qatada Filistini, and he just parroted what they had to say. And this was about the most honorable of the ummah, so you have to be cautious about what you say. And we're talking about in general, not just about the scholars and the students of knowledge and this and that and the other, but I'm just talking about one another even. When you hear something negative about your Muslim brother and sister, don't be quick. Definitely don't spread it. And don't be quick to just accept it. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and we're going to mention some of those ayat, some of those nusus from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in the first ayat from the Quran, that tells us, that encourages us to have husn al-dhan, to have this positive outlook and not be negative as soon as we hear something negative about something. Because wallahi, how many times, even from students of knowledge, I know so many students of knowledge that have told me news and they were messed up. Some of them were graduates in the Kulliyat Hadith from Jam Islamiyya, and I'm like, brother, what have you been studying all these 8 years or whatever? You're from Kulliyat Hadith and you're going to tell me your dhan, a negative dhan about Sheikh so-and-so? Come on. Well, I heard, I think I heard, he wasn't even sure. I was like, subhanallah, what? This guy's a Kulliyat Hadith. He was in his last year. I was like, wow. So this is a shameful trait that we have to be careful of, especially when speaking about it. Okay, when you utter it, then you've now articulated it, and now you're responsible for what you said. Everything you say, you're responsible for. If you don't say it and you hold it in and you try to work on it and you try to affirm it, you're not responsible for that. Okay? But once you utter that, you speak about someone, you slander someone, you backbite someone, you're responsible. Also, Nabiyina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as I mentioned yesterday in the hadith, Mara Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ala qabrayn, faqala, innahum yu'adiban wa ma yu'adiban fi kabir, amma ahaduhuma fakana la yastataru min al-bawl, wa al-amal akhir fakana yamshi bin namima. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was walking by 2 graves, and they were Yahud, Jews in the graves, and he said, verily they're being punished, and they're being punished for something what the people don't think is great. And he says, as for one of them, meaning the first one, or as for one of them, he did not clean himself properly when he urinated, it got on his garments, or he just didn't make a stinja, something similar to this, as far as the meaning. The scholars say it could mean one of the two. And as for the second one, is he used to spread tales about the people. He used to spread wickedness about the people. Spread it with the, Sheikh Ali Bassam, rahmatullahi alayhi, he mentions about this concept of namima. He said it is to spread tales with the intention to spread wickedness. So this is to spread the intention of wickedness. Okay? And so, it's very serious, and it's one of the sins that gets you punished in the grave. And so we have to be careful. And so that goes back. Why did I mention that nas? I mentioned that text because it shows us that import, the seriousness of speaking, spreading wickedness throughout the Muslim community. So not affirming khabar. So many examples, and I know all of you can think of examples. Someone told you, you know what I saw on Facebook? Oh, I heard this, people cut and paste about different people and organizations and stuff. And what a dangerous and sick thing. I can't imagine actually sitting there. Even my enemies. I'm not going to write about the Ku Klux Klan. I'm not going to write about, falsehood. I don't need to, because they're vile enough. The neo-Nazis are vile enough. The white supremacists are vile enough. I don't need to write about them and distort them. The Ahl Bidah, the extreme Sufis who worship the graves and others, I don't need to talk about them. All those Hizbis, I don't need to lie about them. I don't need to cut and paste and make a video about them. No, I will give exactly what they say in the context of what they say it if I'm going to even deal with them. So that's why we have to be careful about this. It's such a sick and dangerous thing, and I just can't imagine someone actually sitting behind their computer as a Muslim and then doing these kind of things. And so many do. So many of our youth are going crazy. What are they doing? Wa'iyadu billah. Making cut and paste videos totally out of context and then saying, so-and-so is this, so-and-so said this, so-and-so believes in worshiping the graves, so-and-so. No, come with the haqq. In kuntum sadiqeen, if you are true, if you are truthful, if you're one of the truthful ones, come with the truth. Don't come with distorting lies and distorting about people and destroying people's honor. Abadan. A'udhu billah min dhalika. And you're going to be responsible to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You try to destroy a da'i, even if the da'i is from Ahl Bidah. We don't have any karama for him. We don't have any respect for him. We don't care because he's distorting the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the same time, we don't need to lie about him. We don't need to distort and take his stuff out of context. When I've spoken in the past about Dr. Yasser Qadhi, I did not lie. I actually spent hours and hours and hours and time and months actually on some of those, on looking at what he said and trying to keep it in context of what he said, his mistakes, not lying and distorting. I don't have to, because he yushahid ala nafsihi. He witnesses on himself some of the stuff he's saying and the off track, crazy insanity. May Allah guide us in him. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fi kitab al-kareem, لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا وقالوا هذا إفك مبين. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says, في كتابه الكريم, he says, why then did not the believers, men and women, when you heard it, the slander, think good of their own people and say, this is an obvious lie? And so this was in the context of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, when those people made ta'an of her and claimed and accused her of zina. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reprimanding the believers and letting them know, he subhanahu wa ta'ala said, why then did not the believers, men and women, when you heard it, that slander, think good of their own people and say, this is an obvious lie? So that means we begin with the husn al-dhan, especially when it's people who are already known for goodness. So when people come to me and they start speaking about major ulama that I already know are on khair, was sunnah, and the beauty of Islam, and the light of Islam, and the nur of basira wal ilm wa fiqh, I'm not going to just take that from any nobody who just wants to be little in the alim. They have to hatim burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin. Bring your proof if you're truthful. Bring your proof if you are truthful. So we're not going to just belittle and just take anything we get. Okay? We need to affirm that those things that are being said, and especially when it's somebody who's from Ahl Khair, who's already known for goodness, a scholar who has years of defending the Sunnah, and then people come all of a sudden and say he's a Mubtadi'ah, he's a Hizbi, he's Mumayya', he's from Ahl Ghulu, he has this. No, we're not going to just take that. We're going to look at the Adillah if we have the ability to even get into the issue. And so that's why it's very important. The point is, and I'm giving you some of these other side issues, and I want us to focus on our hearts. But in general, this is a trait of important akhlaq. This is a part of Islamic adab and manners, in that we have this husn al-dhan, that we think the positive first. When they bring something about your brother or your sister in Islam, don't rush to take it. Oh yeah, she committed that. Oh, she was at the club. Oh, no. But you need to affirm that, and you should not rush. You say, I really don't want to hear that. There's no benefit in me knowing that even, and are you truthful? Or you heard that from someone, and you heard that from someone, and then they heard that from someone, and then, the lie just grew into something way out of proportion. Instead of having husn al-dhan. Husn al-dhan, you don't lose. You don't get any sin for being positive and thinking the best outlook. You don't have any sin. But you get the sin when you start have su'adhan, when you start thinking the negative about your brother and sister, because then it grows, and then you begin to act on it. So you begin to accept it, then you begin to speak about it, and then that could turn into lies, it could turn into slander, it could be namima, it could be ghiba, it could be all those and then some. So it grows like a cancer, so we don't want that cancer. We don't need that cancer in our lives. We got enough sins. Wastaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. And then Ibn Ashur, he said in his tafsir about this verse that we just mentioned. He said one of the fawaid, one of the benefits he mentions, he says, fihi tanbihi ala anna al-haqq al-mu'min idha sami'u qalata fi mu'min and yabni al-amr fiha ala dhann la ala shak ثم ينظر في قرائن الأحوال الصلاحية المقام فإذا نسب السوء إلى ما عرف بالخير ظن أن ذلك إفك وبهتان. So this is beautiful. This is basically what we were just saying. So Ibn Ashur, he says in his tafsir about the ayat that we mentioned, he says in this ayat, in this verse, it points to that the right of the believer is that when he hears a statement about another believer, is that he should build his opinion, his view on that. It should be based on dhann, what he thinks is the most correct, and not on doubt. And so here he's making an ishara that, for example, if we know a scholar, he's on the sunnah, he's been preaching the sunnah for years, then all of a sudden someone says he is a mubtadi'ah for this reason. We don't just jump on what this person said, our dhann, because we know this person, arafu bi khair, and this is what our sheikh, our allama, Imam Abdul Masin al-Abad gets heat from people for, because he has looked at many individuals and he still believes they are from Ahl Sunnah, and he has a positive view because he knows them for years of writing books and calling to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So he doesn't quickly allow anyone to shake him and distort his view of them and take them off the Sunnah. Certain books, he just said, tear it up. I don't want to hear it. And I advise the students to tear that book up. Even he didn't read it. Okay? And so this shows you an important aspect of that. We may not agree with every detail there, but an important aspect of that is I love our Imam, the Sheikh, because he has this positive husna dhann. He has this husna dhann. He has a positive look. He looks to the positive instead of the negative. So Ibn Ashur, he also says, then look at, basically you're looking at the evidence. You're looking at what is overwhelmingly true about that individual before you jump. But if you, for example, someone whose usul is from Ahl Bid'ah, or someone everyone knows this person in the community is regular in the club, they don't really practice, they hardly come to the masjid, but they're Muslim, alhamdulillah, and they're struggling, or they're maybe not even struggling, but they're just there, but alhamdulillah, they're Muslim, our Muslim brother or Muslim sister, but they struggle with sins that everyone knows. Then it's not going to be surprising if you hear so-and-so, we just saw them come out of the club with his girlfriend. And you need to know that because he was inquiring about your daughter or whatever, okay? So in that situation, we would have the overwhelming dhann. It's not we're just going to have a positive attitude and say, oh yeah, no, that's a lie. No, because we know this individual has a track record. Okay, so this is basically saying mabni, that we need to build our view on that track record and give your brothers and sisters the benefit of the doubt. Okay, and so he mentions a lot of that things related to that, and a beautiful statement. And I want to mention a statement of Umar bin al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala an, or actually we'll get to it shortly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fi kitabi al-kareem, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ijtanibu kathiran min adh-dhann inna ba'da adh-dhann ithm wa la tajassasu wa la yaghtab ba'dukum ba'da ayuhibbu ahadukum an ya'kula lahma akhihi maytan fakarahtumuhu wattaqullaha inna Allaha tawwabur rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Kitab al-Kareem in Surah Al-Hujurat, He subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ajtanibu kathiran min adh-dhann. O you who believe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing the mu'mineen, the believers. He says, ajtanibu kathiran min adh-dhann. Beware of suspicion, a lot of suspicion and dhann. Beware of it. Okay? And so he's talking about the negative, of course. Being suspicious of your brothers, spying on them, trying to get their sins, trying to follow up on their sins, trying to, find that negative. He said, in the ba'da dhann itham, some of dhann is a sin. And he says, and do not spy and do not backbite one another. Would you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother? For verily you would hate it. And fear Allah, wattaqullaha inna Allah tawwabur rahim. And fear Allah, and verily Allah is a tawwabur rahim. He is the oft, forgiving, and the one and the most merciful, the most beneficent. So this shows us, ahabati fillah, the point of this ayah here is to show us the importance of being away from that negative viewpoint towards your brothers and sisters when you hear those things, that you should try to have that positive outlook, because verily some of this dhann is a sin, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, that this is negative, that this is sinful, and it distorts the heart, and it begins to be practiced on the tongue, and of course on the limbs. Maybe you end up making hajar of the person, or whatever the case may be. So it's very important, ahabati fillah, to have this positive outlook towards one another. Ijtanibu kathira min adh-dhann wa lam yakul adh-dhann kulluhu. So this is very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned to beware of a lot of dhann, but he didn't say all of dhann. Not all of dhann. And so it's very important to be away from that su'adhan, that negative outlook and that negative viewpoint towards your Muslim brothers and sisters, and not carry tales about one another and be negative and spiteful and hateful. And from our Salaf as-Salih, and at the head of them is the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, comes a statement of Umar bin al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala an. He says, La yuhillu li amrin La yuhillu li amrin li amrin Muslim yasma'u min akhihi kalima yadhannu biha su wa huwa yajid laha fi shay'in min khayr makhraja. وقال أيضا لا ينتفع بنفسه من لا ينتفع بظنه. So Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala an, he said, it is not permissible for a person, a Muslim person, to listen to something about his brother in faith and then to think negative about him, to have a negative viewpoint. He said, and if he finds a way to basically make it out in a good way as a means out of that negative scenario, then he should do so. And this makes me think very much, as I mentioned, Sheikh Abdul Muhsin Al-Abbad, that he mentions this in his book, Rifqin, in which he talks about, making excuses for the students of knowledge of Ahl Sunnah. And because that's what he said, he wrote his treatise addressed to Ahl Sunnah, about Ahl Sunnah, that when there's a problem between Ahl Sunnah, the students of knowledge, between Ahl Sunnah, and so on and so forth, that try to have husn al-dhan. Don't be quick to take off people off the Sunnah who have been known for supporting it, and known for loving it, and known for practicing it and spreading it. Okay? That you should, if you hear something negative about your brother or sister, that you should try to turn it in a good way, a good light. Okay? You should try your best. Obviously, there are times in situations where it's impossible, but you should try, if there is a way that this issue in this scenario has a way or a means out, then that's what you should take. You should take that path. You should try to take that path and look in a positive way for your brother or sister. So I think we will just stop there. And there's some other beautiful athar of the Salaf, like Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. But I think we'll just leave it there. And just in general, it's very important. Have a positive outlook in general in Islam. Have a positive outlook towards your brothers and sisters, and try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Basically, this was all about giving the benefit of the doubt when you hear something negative about someone, that you should strive your best to give them a way out, especially when you give someone the benefit of the doubt. That doesn't mean you totally turn it the opposite. For example, if we say so-and-so just committed zina, wa'iyadhan billah, and this person is known for being a little shady or shaky, they're known for hanging out in the clubs and stuff like this, then that's not going to be a surprise. But you could still give them the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, I don't, do you have you been able to affirm that? Were you there? Were there witnesses? Okay, perhaps that was his sister you saw him walking with. Perhaps that was his whatever. Perhaps he was giving her doubt. If there's a way, a positive way, without just stretching it way beyond the bounds, but if there's a positive possibility, then you lean towards the positive possibility. That's the point. And that's why we say when there's people who are known for good, known for being a righteous brother or righteous sister, that we should give them that positive benefit of the doubt. And we ask Allah the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. So I keep seeing a couple of questions. One about Sheikh Yahya al-Hajuri. What do you think about Sheikh Yahya al-Hajuri? Well, I want to know why you are asking me first, because the scholars, they usually, when they get these kind of questions, we see this all the time. We see that the students, sometimes it's for one of two reasons, and possibly a third. One of the reasons is they want to see what your mawqif, what your position is, okay? They want to see your position. So they're testing you. They're making imtihan of you. That's one of the reasons. Another reason is that they might have an honest question. They might want to listen to him, so they want to know, what is your view of Sheikh Yahya? What do you hold about him? Okay? And getting specifically to this question, as I've talked about in the past, I definitely do not hate Sheikh Yahya al-Hajuri. And I honestly, in a small way, as far as the limited time I was in Damaj, and also seeing him in some other lectures in Sana'a and other places, had immense respect for him in general. And I still have immense respect. And I just recently, before I left Saudi Arabia, I bought his fatwa came out. And in fact, the funny thing is, I think it's right here. Let's see. It is. Yes, it is. This is his books. It's a list of his fatwa, and it is 6 or something volumes. So I would still buy, because I want to benefit from the things he has to offer. And so I have this brand new. Of course, I couldn't let this pass. I couldn't let it pass. So I had to buy it Walhamdulillah. And my view in general is I do believe that he has some extremism. And I witnessed that, and I heard it, from many of the statements he said. And there's no doubt that a lot of his followers, and that doesn't mean all of them, of course, but I'm talking about those who really consider them as followers. Why would you be I'm not a follower of my scholars. I love my scholars. I love Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli. I'm not his follower. I love Imam Abdul Muhsin Al-Abbad. I'm not his follower. I love Imam Fawzan. I'm not his follower. I love, how many ulama that I love tremendously. He's my sheikh. But unfortunately, you have people who have reached the level, so much extremism, some of the poetry, some of the things, some of the statements he said about it's big. It's a big issue. It's a lot of fitna. So anyway, those things, certain scholars, I would benefit from some of their material because we've known them for years to be on the sunnah. But there's no doubt some people go, anyone can go astray, and some people go more extreme with their harshness and some of the things that just simply, when I look at some of the things that Sheikh Yahya's camp, meaning many of his students, and even some of his people who he labeled as sheikhs, and maybe they are, but, we definitely can't compare them to many of the major ulama. But some of the things that they wrote about, for example, many of the other Yemeni mashayikh, all the well-known Yemeni mashayikh, he is more or less separated. With Sheikh Abdurrahman Adani, rahmatullah alayh, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Wahhab al-Wasabi, rahmatullah alayh. He was known as the father. Imam Muqbil, praised all of them. But then all of them are written off. Sheikh Muhammad al-Imam and Sheikh, all those mashayikh, Sheikh Abdullah Adani, Sheikh, all the mashayikh, so unfortunately the people divided and they splitted. And I believe a lot of times those things, it was extremism because so much stuff was said that wasn't true. And alhamdulillah, I was in Shihr, in Hadramaut, when a lot of that fitna was going on, and I saw some of the things, and I would buy the books that those people who were writing against my sheikh, who I was sitting under, just to see what their argument was and what they were saying about Sheikh Abdurrahman Adani and Fiyush. A lot of it wasn't even true, and a lot of it was just really strange ta'wil that they were using to attack those mashayikh, and all of those mashayikh were really patient before they really split with Sheikh Yahya. They were trying to keep Ahl Sunnah together, and they wouldn't even speak. Even Sheikh Abdullah, and this is true, and I was there. One of the students wanted to go to Sheikh Yahya, wanted to go to Damaj. Okay, and Damaj was attacking those two places daily. They were, wallahi, some of the people were there in Damaj at the time, and then they were doing poetry to the children, or doing in the Quran dars, even talking about them, the Hizbi Abdurrahman and all this weird stuff. That's weird. That's weird stuff. Okay, it's gone. Tajawaz al-had. It's gone beyond the bounds. Okay, the children don't. You're teaching children Quran. What in the world does that have to do with speaking about these people who you differ with? You're different with them. Even most of those masail are not. So anyway, those are long. Masail, like I said, I have his books, and I would greet him and respect him. I'm not going to, attack him. That would be foolish, like some of the other brothers who made war and got involved in all that fitna. I saw the fitna, and the fitna with the mashayikh in Medina and the back and forth. So it is what it is. I have his books, but there's many other scholars that have a way higher level in knowledge as well. Sheikh Yahya, we respect him, but there are ulama, you can't, and I don't like to even do that and say so-and-so's from Kibar and so-and-so's not, but also there's different levels of knowledge, and we have to respect that, and we have to know that, and you only know that if you seek knowledge and you sit with those ulama, and then you can see from their fatwa, you can see from their istidlal, you can see from their tarbiyah, you can see from where and how they benefited, and you can see the different levels of knowledge, so that's what I have to say about that. Someone else said something, asked a question, can you name a few scholars that are still alive? There's so many. I think I just did. There's so many scholars. Okay, let's talk about Riyadh. We're not going to talk about the rest of Sardiya. Let's talk about Riyadh. Allama Fawzan, Allama Barak, Allama Abdulaziz Al-Rajihi, the Mufti, Sheikh Salih Ali Sheikh, Allama Salih Ali Sheikh. Okay, those are just a few. And there's so many others. Let's talk about Medina. Imam Abdul Masin al-Abad, Imam Salih Suhaimi, Allama Ubaid Jabri, Allama Rabi bin Hadi al-Madkhali, Allama, Ali Nasser al-Fiqi, Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli, Sheikh Suleiman al-Raheli, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab al-Aqil, Sheikh Ali Tuwajri, Sheikh Kadir. So many. Where else do we go to? Which other place? So there's many mashayikh in Yemen, many mashayikh in I'm sure in Egypt and other places. I'm more familiar with mashayikh and scholars that I studied with in Saudi Arabia and in Yemen. And I think there was another question. I think someone mentioned something about depression. Is there any hadith, Quranic verses talking about depression? In general, depression, that there are, just about being positive. And, that really takes like doing like a research. And I think that's a worthy research. That is something worthy of sitting down and writing making a proper lecture and talking about depression and going into the books and researching that issue and that topic. And I'm sure some of the brothers, some of the students of knowledge, I know some of the brothers in Philly and in the UK and in different parts of the country here in the US are dealing with those, because there's been a shift with a lot of the students of knowledge in trying to deal with a lot of complex social issues to the best of their ability. And so, some of those brothers have put together some things, and I'm sure, and it's worth researching. I would advise you to do your research and look at some of those students of knowledge in the West that have put together things and, that have compiled some of those things about how to deal with depression. But in general, dealing with anxiety and stuff, a lot of du'as, a lot of supplications of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Go to your Husn Muslim and reading the Quran will heal you. I feel so good. This isolation of this COVID-19 has, for me, in some ways, it's been a very difficult Ramadan as far as not being around people. No tarawih, no nothing. You're just doing your own thing. But at the same time, this has been one of the best Ramadans for me in a long time as far as my engagement with the Quran. So, and when you engage yourself with the Quran more, you begin to open up and love the Quran more, and you see the healing effects. So, I would advise you, read the Quran. And if you don't know Arabic and you can at least read it and recite as much as you can and struggle, because you're going to get the reward and the ajr for it. And still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might make it a means for cure of your spiritual, mental, and physical ailments. So read it as much as possible and read the English translation as well. And likewise, reading the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, reading the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, reading some of the athar of the Salaf al-Salih, because there's a lot of good things out there that are compiled, and it just makes you feel good when you take a topic. That's why I'm glad to even do this lecture and do lectures like this. I just go, and I have this beautiful book here, and this is very appropriate for Ramadan and outside. It's called Mawsu'a al-Akhlaq. So what it is, it's like an encyclopedia. It's 5 big fat volumes of just all about akhlaq. So what the way they do the book is it'll start off as a linguistic definition, then they'll give you a Sharia definition, then they'll compare it to other akhlaq manners that are similar, and those kind of distinctions you really can't make in the English language. They're really made in the Arabic language, so they're going in depth in there. Then they'll give you ayat, then they'll give you hadith, then they'll give you athar of the Salaf, and from the mufassirin and things like this, from the people of tafsir, to give you a comprehensive look at a particular trait in akhlaq. So those kind of books are critical and beautiful if you have the Arabic language. If you don't, whatever's out there in English, and there's so many things that are translated in English. So what I would say is read those things that are going to move your heart. Read Riyadh Salihin, that's in English. Read as much as you can about the things of patience, and the chapter of taqwa and the chapter of ikhlas. All of those things will help massage your heart, and they can help be a means to deal with that depression. They really, they're just a means, but it also depends on a person's level of depression. Do they need medical help or not? Is it something that's chemical in their brain or not? Or is it something more from their surroundings and from their negative environment? Or was it something because of childhood? There's so many different scenarios, and everyone's situation is different. So, there's no one size fits all, but all of those Sharia means are a beautiful start and finish, meaning that you need to use those anyway. And then if you have to, because you have a doctor that says that you really legitimately need some sort of medication because you're on that level, because there's different levels. Some people have a little depression, and some people have some depression, but they refuse to use drugs. And then some people have maybe suicidal tendencies and things like this for whatever, situations that they had, or whatever, the chemical imbalance, or whatever the various causes for it. So everyone's different in their diagnosis. Those things come from psychologists and psychiatrists and, people who specialize in that. And then we can only advise you with some Sharia means, and if it's a jinn, or if it's the evil eye, doing a ruqya and, things like this. So reading the Quran, I would say, is a first start. Reading Riyadh Salihin, because that's your ahadith and stuff like that. And those things can make you feel really good, and give you some really positive direction. And listen to positive. Go to a positive, listen, and take time for yourself. I've done some advices and talks about this before, that, of some different means and different stages and steps. So I would say, look it up. It's there, it's recorded, and talking about different ways just to deal with anxiety or what have you, several different steps and ways to kind of help clean and cure your heart, and also, again, depends on the level. Now, it's Maghrib here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your fasting. Ameen. And bless you. Ameen. MashaAllah. Sheikh Tahir is also here too. I'm not sure where. When purchasing books, are there things to look out for? Misleading information, or is that not common with books? No, of course. There's many books. I would say, in general, mashallah, there's so much translated material out there. I'm absolutely amazed, because I've been in Saudi Arabia for a long time, and I just didn't pay attention to the English speaking world, the fitna, nor the things out there. But I was so shocked how far Dar es Salaam and a lot of those publishers, and then all the works that a lot of the students of knowledge have done. They've translated so many books of the Salaf, of the classical scholars. I would say, and so many books of even contemporary scholars are now in English with the explanations. Those kind of books are invaluable. So I would say Aqidah books, and I would say, books about creed and stuff like this. And I would say stay away from, plain and simple, I can't put it any other way, but stay away from Sufi literature and other type of literature like that. Stay absolutely away from it. Dar es Salaam has a lot of good literature there that's translated. And then there's a lot of our brothers from the students of knowledge around the world have are doing good works and translating books of the Salaf. So that's what I would say. You stick with those. Of course, you can be misled, because people can mistranslate. People can put footnotes that support their ideology. Because I was reading a Nawaqid of Islam from one old graduate, and he had a lot of takfir in his book. His book was not. I would not teach his book, and I would not recommend anybody read it. You could see his orientation on how he was using that text to support his ideology. So you do have to be careful. So I would say stick with reputable speakers that you trust, that are known for adhering to the book and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the methodology of the Salaf. And I can't underestimate that, because there is so much dalal out there, and a lot of times we don't even realize, and we take it for granted. We just, I'm amazed, like coming back now and seeing what's out here in the Western world too, and I see a trend. Alhamdulillah, the Sunnah has spread. There's a lot, but I now see that the modernness and these contemporary understandings, and these people who are tajawaz, they're going beyond the bounds in their supposed maslaha and mafsada and things like this, and weighing the harms and benefits, that they're going beyond the bounds. Some of these guys are on the border of interfaith, of just saying, the Christians and Jews, they're our brothers and they're going to paradise too. And I've heard people with my own ears who said that. A guy in Seattle who's some da'i, and I don't even know the guy. Probably I've seen his face over the years. And he's, has a group called the Three Amigos. And I heard it with my own ears. And he goes around doing lectures around the country with a priest and a rabbi. Okay? And I heard him say, and they even had better al-wala wal-bara than him. The priest and the rabbi, because it was on NPR, and he said, with our brothers, and even NPR was kind of, the host was kind of surprised, because they were saying, well, don't you feel, you guys are going around together and you have these different faiths and you're calling it something different. And he said, my brothers, these are my brothers. And he said, we all have our different paths, but we're all going to the same place. Well, you probably are, because if you're calling to Wahda Idyan, you're probably going to the same place as them too. Na'am. But from Ahl Sunnah, from Ahl Islam, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes takfir of the Jews and Christians. It doesn't matter of our opinion. It doesn't matter that our relatives are from them. We can't say so-and-so is a nice guy, he's going to paradise. That's not the criterion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says في كتاب الكريم إن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين في نار جهنم. خلاص انتهينا. كفرهم الله سبحانه وتعالى وكفرناهم. And we also make takfir of them. We can't hold Jews and Christians. They are not believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or they are not the people from Iman. They believe in some aspects of the deen, but Rububiyyah is not sufficient. The lordship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone is not sufficient. So the point being, ahabati fillah, is yes, it does matter the books that you read. Be careful. Deal with well-established publishers, and deal with those people who are recommended by students of knowledge. That's what I'll say. Recommended by students of knowledge on the Sunnah. That's what I say. Okay? So go ask your students of knowledge that are out there. Ask them for great advice. And we have plenty of them. And I've mentioned them countless times, and then people get upset. And some people say, but he so-and-so is with this group now, or he's doing lectures with them. But, we're not going to get into that right now. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all and protect us all, preserve us all, forgive us all, and bless us all with ikhlas, with thabat. Where do you advise to seek knowledge? Do you mean a country, or do you mean I don't know if you mean in a particular country, or a particular, if you're talking about a country to seek knowledge, of course, I can't not say Saudi, in my view, is far the best. But Saudi has many obstacles. They do not make it easy for you, unfortunately. You will have to go there as a worker, or you will have to go there, either you accepted in the university if you're of age. Okay? So unfortunately, they don't, and there's so many changes going on in Saudi Arabia now. So we don't know what is going to be in the future. But scholar-wise, that is the place to be. And also, you can learn your sciences there. And then there's so many scholars that I was even unaware of, who are quiet in the haram, who, have immense itqan. I don't know what to say, that they are not professional, but they are immensely knowledgeable in their subject. Knowledgeable. It might be in fiqh, it might be in the Arabic language, it might be in the qira'at of the Quran, it might be in kutub al-ilm, So Saudi is just filled with scholars and because the ta'zeem of Tawheed, and because the ta'zeem of Tawheed in the Shar', that Saudi makes great emphasis on the concept of Islamic monotheism, unlike any other country. And likewise, and the Sharia as well. And you see, the years that I lived there, I saw the peace and stability because of that. I've never even most of the time I could keep my car unlocked, and you don't do anything too crazy and extreme, but you go, you pray, you can admonish people, and then they would accept it. A lot of times it's changing. The youth are definitely changing, and it's unfortunately for the worse, but it's still so much khair there. Unlike if you were in Egypt, unlike if you were in Maghreb, unlike if you were in other countries. But all those countries still have immense benefit that you can benefit and seek knowledge in. Egypt is very good for the sciences. I think it would be very good to learn fiqh or the Arabic language or whatever. And of course, Quran. Um, in many of the Muslim countries, you can find opportunities. Even if you're in Indonesia, they have institutes there where you can learn. Um, but I prefer, especially with the Arabic language, I prefer to be and would generally advise to go to an Arab country. And it's not because you're not going to be speaking Fusha necessarily on the street, or the people are not going to necessarily comprehend, but it's more of an immersion in the culture and the and everything. So there, anyhow, the bottom line is there's many opportunities. I would definitely advise Yemen if it wasn't in a state of disrepair and disarray. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rectify Yemen and bless Ahl Sunnah to be on top and to rule the country on the shar, and for it to be a prosperous and beneficial country again, and increase their rizq, and cure them from sickness and disease and the ills of war. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And so there's many there's many countries out there where you might find that great benefit. I actually meant this to be like a 15-minute lecture, but it never works out that way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. And I can't believe it's 6:30 here, so I only have an hour and something, so I'm going to need to go. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with ikhlas, with tabat, forgive us all of our many sins. And like I said, certain publishers you should also, in Dar es Salaam, you're generally going to get good books. You're not going to get any crazy Aqidah and stuff like that. So you're going to get good books, the translated material they've done. So that's a good place to start. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. May Allah bless Sheikh Tahir and all of our brothers and sisters in Islam. And of course, we have excessive love or even more love for those tulab al-ilm and those mashayikh and the ones that we know are adherent to the book and the sunnah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with tawfiq, and bless the sheikh to continue to be pumping out and producing beautiful works. And may Allah forgive us all of our mistakes. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.